Hello, welcome to PVM We're Engaged. This is the podcast where we highlight Purdue University College of Veterinary Medicine's community partnerships. I'm your host, Sandy San Miguel. I'm the Associate Dean for Engagement here, and I am super excited to bring to you today our partnership with Huntington University. We have two very special guests, and would you like to introduce yourselves?
Well, I guess I'll go first. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Chad Brown. I am the director of both of our separately accredited veterinary nursing programs here at the College of Veterinary Medicine. I am a Purdue grad. I was a DVM graduate of 2001.
And the best part of your introduction, Dr. Brown, I taught you.
Yes, best class I had.
Thank you.
I had for swine production medicine, and I also had a rotation my fourth year with Dr. Amos at the time, but now it's Dr. San Miguel.
Thank you. And without any prompting, he said that.
Correct.
Well, greetings. My name is Nate Perry, and I have the privilege and pleasure of serving at Huntington University, and I am the managing director of the Hopper Institute for Agricultural Studies. I am a graduate of Huntington. I do watch Purdue football on Saturdays, and so that's my main connection to the Boiler Up. There has been a time or two that Norm the Forester, the lumberjack, has engaged in some on-stage antics during a few events, like during the Indiana State FFA convention. Has interacted with Purdue Pete a few times. But that's about as close to the Boilermaker side that I can get, is hanging out with Purdue Pete and Norm the Forester.
And me.
And of course, Dr. Brown. I mean, that is a key one as well. I've never seen Dr. Brown and Purdue Pete in the same room at the same time, so I'll let you determine what that means.
You know what? I haven't either.
Well, I can guarantee you that Purdue Pete is taller than 5'5".
I love it. Well, thank you both so much for being on the show. Let's get right into it. Can you tell us about your partnership, your program?
Sure. Nate, do you want me to start? Or you want to start?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, so it started in actually 2021, and that was just the idea. The president of Huntington University she recognized that Huntington University had a tremendous agricultural support, and they had this farm and they had all of this equipment and a lot of alumni backing. And she was looking for new ideas, to attract new students with this already existing infrastructure. So I don't know how the original idea came to be, but I do know that she approached, and her name is Sherilyn Emberson. It's Emberton. Emberton, yeah. And so Dr. Emberton, she actually approached our dean with the idea of a dual degree where students would be in attendance on the grounds of Huntington University and get an animal health degree, while at the same time doing a dual degree with our veterinary nursing distance learning program, which is an entirely remote program. And so that was 2022, December of, I think it was something around there. It's been a while now. And so we created, it took a lot of time because this is a pretty lengthy and demanding degree, actually, because students have to go to school during the summers and everything else. So it really took a lot of time to craft a plan of study where we believed it was setting the students up for success with it. And so I'll let Nate talk about, from our end, we had to deliver our curriculum like normal. So basically they were students that were Huntington students, but they were enrolled with Purdue taking our program just as it is. So ours was a little easier once we created the plan of study that was a dual degree, then Huntington had a lot of work to do in terms of setting this up and hiring people to help with student success and everything else. So I'll turn that part over to Nate.
Before we switch over to Nate, can you
Yep.
tell us about the veterinary nursing curriculum? What do
Yeah.
veterinary nurses do, and what does this rigorous curriculum involve?
Sure. So as we know, so in a veterinary clinic, a lot of people will go into the clinic and see the veterinarian, but then there's the veterinary technician. The veterinary technician is kind of like our equivalent, our nurse. And so a veterinary technician has to go to school, at an accredited school somewhere. There are campus programs all over the country where people attend, face to face. But then there's also the option of a remote program where students can get an associate degree in an associate in applied science degree while working at a vet clinic, and then taking our curriculum, which is comprised of veterinary technician, veterinary nursing type of classes. Now, we call ourselves the veterinary nursing program because we feel that name better captures the knowledge and technical skill set all in one. But the truth is that once they graduate and pass their national license exam, they're known from then on as a credentialed veterinary technician. And so that's kind of what we say. So veterinary nurse is equal to veterinary technician. But Purdue led the change in 2018 in changing our name to veterinary nursing because we really believed in that change. We've got this program that's the distance learning program where we have, I think, 820 students enrolled in it now this fall. And we have students in 18 different countries. And luckily, we've got, I got to ask Nate what the numbers are, but I think it's 25 or 30 now Huntington students enrolled in that. So I hope that answers your question, Dr. San Miguel.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now, Nate, tell us about the impact that this has had on Huntington University and why this partnership is important to you.
Certainly. Yeah, thank you. I'll rewind a little bit even to say the launch of the ag program is fairly new. We launched the Hopper Institute 10 years ago in 2014. And so for us, we started with agribusiness that very first year, and I think started with 12 students. And then the following year, ag education, and then a few years later, I'll touch on those majors. But what we learned early on was that Purdue University was very supportive of this. They were supportive of us launching this program in ag. Obviously, Purdue is such a well-known entity, not only in the state, but across the country for agricultural business and education and econ and finance and all the different majors. And so for us, we were starting new. If you were to talk to our president at the time, she would say that we were launching a program and we didn't have a football team. We didn't have any coaches. We didn't have any of the equipment. We had a whole bunch of cheerleaders. We had a lot of people on the sidelines that were really rallying us, and that would include a lot of our area, our donors here in Northeast Indiana, our friends, many who were Purdue graduates that said, you know what, it'd be great if there was an agricultural influx in education here in the Northeast Indiana region. And so that's kind of how it all started. When Dr. Emerton landed here, she came from Texas, and she was just amazed by agriculture and what that looked like. Where she had come from, it was agriculture, but it didn't look like it does in Indiana. And so we had really strong success in those first couple of years. In 2019, we decided to go ahead and launch a couple more majors, animal science, and then also crop science agronomy. And for us, I returned back to Huntington. I was gone for about 3 years, do some professional development consulting work, and came back. And she asked me if I would come back and help with this, and I said I will on a couple of conditions. One of those, we own some farm ground. It's time for us to start planting some of our own crops and allowing our students to be in those fields doing some of the research. And then also, it's time to get some animals. And so she said, all right, I don't know what that looks like exactly, but if you figure that out, I'll support you and rally the troops. And so a year later in 2020, we had taken over a cattle operation about 15 miles from Huntington. We started farming some of our own ground, which sits about 5 miles north of campus. And then we also decided to take a leap and build our own animal facility. So we constructed the Don Strauss Animal Science Education Center. And then COVID happened, and we weren't sure what that was going to look like when we had all these facilities, and we weren't sure what the semester was going to look like. But Dr. Everton was saying, hey, we'll be back in the fall, and we're going to, kind of hit the ground running. But as we looked at that space, it's a 10,000 square foot animal science center. As we looked at that space, we really designed it to be flexible, to do a lot of different things in that space and not just have, animals and pens up against concrete walls. So it's a very unique and flexible design, but with that allowed us to do some unique partnerships. And one of those is with the College of Veterinary Medicine there at Purdue University. I remember Dr. Brown came to visit and sat in our classroom where we have there tied to the facility. And as he looked at the spaces, we began to dream a little bit of what could this look like? How could we give our students some hands-on experience? Because as you know, or if you think about it, many of the students, Dr. Brown, if I say anything here incorrectly, be sure to correct it. But many of the students that are in the online program are at vet clinics. They're in hospitals. They're with animals. So for us, it was unique because our students are going to be full-time students at Huntington. So we had to use some of this space and get creative on how can we give our students access to animals, because they're not at a clinic. They're a full-time Huntington student. They're in all of our classes. Maybe they're playing a sport while they're here. Dr. Brown's, favorite, soccer. There may be some soccer players that are here and they're studying in this dual degree program. We knew that we had to kind of change the programs a little bit just to fit within all the criteria and the courses that Purdue is going to offer. So we created a new course in animal health. So it's a bachelor's in animal health. At the same time, they're getting this associate degree from Purdue University in the College of Veterinary Medicine, veterinary nursing. So they actually blended really well. There were times that we shared a lot of screens with spreadsheets and trying to figure out which course are we going to plug in where and how can we make sure that we meet, obviously, all of our accreditation standards, and the same thing with Purdue University's. But it's been a great partnership. I think I look at that from a standpoint, not even just the enrollment numbers, but just look at the interest and the relationship that we've been able to build with the College of Veterinary Medicine there, whether it's the dean or it's, Dr. Brown and all of his staff. It's just been so fun to kind of join together on this endeavor. I don't think there's another program out there like this. It's pretty unique in just the fact of a place like Huntington University, a private Christian liberal arts university, a couple hours away, right across 24 into West Lafayette and Purdue University and the College of Veterinary Medicine. It's been a really fun endeavor and very rewarding. We've seen a lot of our relationship and our stakeholders that have rallied around this that said, gosh, there really should be an opportunity here for students to study, something in veterinary medicine. We have some students that are going on to be veterinarians. They're going to go to vet school after they graduate, but there was a whole host of students that were really interested in really a demand that we know of that's trying to fill that void for more vet techs, vet nurses in industry and in practice and in research and nonprofit work. And we're hoping to help fill that gap the best that we can.
This is outstanding.
I can add a little bit to that. So I consider this more than a partnership. These are my friends. I have been to Huntington multiple times. I've always they roll out the red carpet. They're just wonderful people to work with. And so that's just been a pleasure to me. When we first started this, Sandy, we thought to ourselves, and Nate, and by the way, Nate and I have spoken together to various organizations about this as well. And so we've always received really good feedback from that and a lot of support from it. But really, when we started it, we had goals of, the first year we'll have 5 students, and maybe the second year we'll have 10 students because it was so new. And I'll let Nate tell the numbers, which we are just so happy about. But yeah, these are my friends that I love going over to Huntington. Love it. Just like, I've gone to see a soccer game. I've gone to see, we've just had multiple events there too. But just been a great partnership. Like Nate said, this is the only one that I know of. I do want to add a little bit to this. So if you picture it, So most of our distance learning students, as Nate had said, are working. It's a part-time program. It's meant to be taken part-time. And the quickest you can get through our distance learning program is 3 years as a regular student, just taking it, working here. They take anywhere from 2 credit hours a semester to 9 credit, or actually 8 credit hours per semester. But no one can get through it faster than 3 years. Most of our students, it takes 5 years. And as he said, most of our students are employed at a veterinary clinic full-time, taking this at the same time. So that was a challenge when we created this program because as he said, these students were not at practice. So that's the way I thought I would add that.
This is excellent. It's a perfect segue because part of the goal of this podcast is to not only show off our partnerships, but help others develop similar partnerships. So getting into the logistics. So you two work together really well. So first, what superpowers do each of you bring to the table, and how do you combine those superpowers to have the impact that you're having?
I'll let Nate go first this time. I've been going first lately. So,
Gosh, it's always what superpower do you wish you had, right? In higher ed, I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies. Sometimes we get caught in the middle of, well, we can't do this because of this. And I feel like for this program, it was really seen on both sides that we said, we can do this. Now, there's going to have to be some give and take. There'll have to be some opportunities and challenges that are worked through. But I think the super, power here is just we were able to kind of build this thing as if it was not only brand new. It's like there was a playbook already in play for this. And there kind of was. Huntington has some partnerships with other partners that I think allowed us to think through what can we do on our end. Certainly with Purdue University, there were lots of opportunities to say, okay, well, we have an online program, we have this delivery mechanism, we can, bolt our students right into this. And what's exciting is our students, they may not be just in their own class. If you think about it, they're really interacting with students worldwide. Students that are meeting online in these, groups, chat rooms, that they're able to learn from their professors, but also learn from each other, no matter what their experiences are. So I think for us, it was the ability just to bring those people together. Let our professors do what they do so well, and it's to teach. Let them, care for the students and really engage with them and challenge them to take what they've learned already, but to just really amplify it even more to say, okay, in order to do this, these are the things that you're going to have to do. So I think for Dr. Brown and myself, it was just fun to be able to sit back and watch it. It took a little bit of work to get all the courses to line up and figure out how can we do this under 5 years. And certainly there are already things in play with partnerships when it came to financials and how billing statements work and sponsor billing. So some of those things were actually easier to work on than probably what I had even anticipated, because there's already a little bit of a playbook in place for them. So I guess my encouragement is sometimes we think these things they're never going to happen. I think the key is making sure the right people are in the room that can not necessarily make and call all the shots, but be able to have the ear of those that we need to be able to make certain that some of these things are going to really benefit the student, because that's why we're in the business that we're in. We're here for the students, and if we get to see them achieve the goals that they want to from a career standpoint, we all win. It's an easy win for us when that happens. Communication is key. We had to communicate, and there have been text messages, there have been some emails, there have been phone calls late at night. Sometimes we're like, hey, first thing Monday morning, we got to address this one. So there has been, I think that open line of communication to say this is something we need to address. This is something that maybe we didn't expect to happen that is happening. And I don't mean to make it sound like that's a negative thing. There may be some really good things that were happening that we didn't anticipate, especially like Dr. Brown said out of year one, where we didn't have just a handful of students. I mean, we were bringing 11, 12 students to campus right away. And those were just the students that identified this is the career, or this is the degree they're going to seek. The opportunity that we offered this allowed us to have a lot more conversations with folks. They didn't know this was an option. Sometimes it's even been educating. I go back to Dr. Brown, you talk about us speaking to different groups, just even educating people. What is this career? What does this career even mean? What are the opportunities that are out there? I think for us, we've even educated a lot of parents I would say that's a difference is we work with a lot more parents. Our students are traditionally 18 to 22 years old. So we're talking to the whole family. We're around the kitchen table or they're in our offices, and we're talking about this as a possible career path. And obviously when we put Purdue University's name on there in the College of Veterinary Medicine, that gets folks really excited. And to see it at a place like a Huntington and be able to do both programs, I think that was another really great opportunity for us. This year, we've enrolled an additional 16 students. One of our 15 new students, and one student actually, she left the ag program and has jumped. I shouldn't say left the ag program. This is still housed under the ag program, but she was in a different major and has joined this program because I think the student really saw what we were doing and really wanted that hands-on, that animal health, to be able to work with large or small animals. I don't think they have it all figured out yet on which they're going to do. But to be able to do that is something that really is resonating in the minds of the students that they want to pursue. They want to pursue this career.
Outstanding.
I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nate's the best, as I said.
Like
I said, I could listen to. So you can understand, Sandy, why this partnership works well. I like to be surrounded by I don't know. Partnerships work a lot better if we all have the same goals and a mentality of a win-win for both parties. And I think that's what we both went into this with, is how can we help each other with this? And it's been very beneficial to our program just to be affiliated with such a great place like Huntington. So that was a big one for me, is that, two, I think it's important that the partnerships are high energy, and I think that they care about students, they care about I think just making the world a better place, and all of the people at Huntington, I guess they possess these qualities, and I think collaborative is a big deal too, and decisiveness. We did have to pull the trigger after a while. I mean, it did. It took lots and lots and lots of time to figure out this program because it's very unique. I don't know of any other in the country where they do this. And so it's just been so fun. It has been a lot of fun.
I love how you gel. You both just work so well together. So question. What's the toughest decision or challenge that you came up against during the evolution of this project, and how did you work through it together?
Yeah. Well, I think also we do need to talk about some of the, like you hiring Amy. I think it's a big deal as to why this makes it a little unique and how we kind of Sandy, how it usually works are our students are isolated all over the country. And as much as we give them support, I mean, our instructors are fantastic and we have advisors for those students. The Huntington students were going through it as a cohort. And so we tried to figure out what could, increase our chances of them. This is a tough program. It is. It's tough on its own. And then you match it with animal health. Oh. And so that's a challenge that we kind of addressed before they started. So I think I'll let Nate talk about that part. And then from our standpoint, it honestly has been that Huntington has had all the challenge, to be quite honest with you, because as I said, for Purdue, we are just delivering our curriculum as normal. That's it. We haven't changed anything specifically. Now we certainly try to help our Huntington students as much as every other student, all of us. But really, from our standpoint, it's actually we've gotten the easy end of this. But we certainly have tried to help Huntington in any way we can. So I'll let Nate talk about the challenges.
Well, you're exactly right, Dr. Brown. That was one of the pieces, was how do we bring our students, they want this cohesiveness, they want this cohort. Our students aren't necessarily online learners. Private Christian higher ed, they want to be in the seats. That's part of the value they're paying for. So we had to really think through, how do we take an online program and gel it together? So something as simple as our calendars don't match up. So Purdue's going to start a week earlier than one Huntington. So we bring all those students in a week earlier. we want to get them going right away and off to a great first step that very first day. We hired a registered vet tech that serves as really the liaison between Purdue University courses and Huntington courses. They're the ones that are there that are with the students. We created a block schedule, so all of our students are in the same courses together, from Intro to Ag to English Literature and Composition to Western Civilization, and their vet nursing courses. They're all in the same courses together. What that did is it allowed us to create even a block during the week where they didn't have anything else. So those students created a time in their schedule where they had a space they could meet in person and even talk about the things they were doing online. They had access to an in-person advisor that was here. And our vet tech is a graduate of Purdue, so has gone through the program and kind of knows some of the same people there, knows some of the courses, has obviously been in industry, has been in a practice herself. So it allowed students to have access to a real life person kind of at any time they wanted to. She has office hours, they can walk into our office, and certainly they were there. We also built a skills lab. And so if you think about what I talked about with the Don Strauss Animal Science Center, where there are live animals, we also knew we needed to take a step and build something that students could practice their skills. And that was one of the things that we did with some workforce development grant money, is we took a physics lab that we weren't using, utilizing it to its fullest capabilities. And so we converted that to a skills lab that our students have access to 24/7. And so they can go in there and they can practice something. They can just get used to something. It may even be a veterinarian over their shoulder. So we also have on retainer, we have a veterinarian that will come in just to kind of simulate a little bit of what that practice might be, where there's a DVM over their shoulder, and try to say, hey, this veterinarian is on your side, but they may ask you really hard questions. So even in that practice lab, how do you interact with other vet techs? How do you interact with the veterinarian that may be there? How do you work through some of the simulation type things that you may have to go through? Again, before they even walk into that first mentorship in that area clinic. So that was one of the challenges that we had to do. And I think Dr. Brown, mentions that we had to do a lot of those kinds of things that were a little bit outside the box for us. Those were all new things for us.
Yeah.
But they worked out really well to try and just, again, create that success right off for these students, to give them everything that we could that would allow them to be prepared and ready, even when they walked in that first mentorship, maybe that first, that second semester, that spring semester that they're here.
Yeah, I will say this. Nate has said the word mentorship, so let me explain that. Many of you are probably, well, I don't know. I'm assuming one of the questions from one of your listeners, Sandy, would be, well, how in the world do these students that are learning remotely, how are they required to do any laboratories? Because laboratories are required of all accredited programs, whether it's a brick and mortar or whether it's a distance learning. So with our students, we require, they'll be working at a clinic and they have a certain number of skills in each one of these mentorship courses, where the student will perform the task in front of a registered veterinary technician or a veterinarian, video that and send it back to our instructors here at Purdue. And our Purdue instructors will evaluate and assess those video submissions to make sure that they are competent in those. So that's what those mentorships that Nate are talking about. So the mentorships at their place is actually the students going to area clinics. And that's, you had mentioned one of the challenges, and we'll go into mentorships here in just a second. But the other challenge, Sandy, is that this is a tough program. It's 144 credit hours, and students go fall, spring, summer for 4 years. And that is quite a commitment with that. And so I see that as a challenge, but something we didn't think about were, okay, so the students are going to have to go out and establish relationships with these area clinics. Well, we thought, well, we'll have 4 or 5 students, no problem. And remember that these students have to go to the practice and do these skills and then get back to class. Get back to class because they have other things to do. Well, now that we have 30 students, Nate, I'll let you expand on this, but that's been a challenge.
Yeah, it has. A good challenge, right? And sometimes we want these challenges when things are going really well, and when numbers, for example, are the response has been so popular. So it has been a lot of kind of boots on the ground work ahead of the students even. Who are the veterinarians, what are the clinics and the owners that we're talking to ahead of the students being there. But we have an internship and career fair coming up. We invite clinics to come to that, where they get to meet the students for the very first time. Just trying to allow them to build a relationship before they actually contact them that very first time with a cover letter and a resume and say, hey, I'd like to come do this particular mentorship at your practice. We've had to expand beyond. Initially, we thought, okay, let's kind of stay within a certain proximity. As Dr. Brown mentioned, because students are getting back to classes, maybe it's coming back for a chapel. We have required chapel at Huntington a few days a week. So those are all the kinds of things that we've had to work through and really try to map out where can students get to? Where can they get to? Is it a weekend opportunity? When they're home for the summer? Because that's what happens is, as Dr. Brown mentioned, they're still taking those courses year round. So even in the summer, they're still taking the Purdue courses, and they're typically back in their hometowns for those. So trying to help the students even unpack, okay, where can I go for this particular mentorship? That's been something that's taken a little bit more, time, energy, and resources on our end. Not that we aren't happy to do it. I don't think we had necessarily anticipated it, and part of it's because of the numbers. If we had 5 students, much easier to kind of nail those down because we know the practices are busy. The clinics and practices are busy. Them to have, a handful of students and they're videotaping these things and they're showing up at times when they're hoping this takes place, the practice for that particular skill. It's taken a little bit of, I describe it as a 7th grade slow dance kind of a thing, where you're trying to navigate all these different pieces, and no one's sitting on the sidelines, not doing anything. But that's been a little bit of the challenge. But what it's done is it's allowed us to tell our story. Many of our relationships have relationships already with Purdue. And so when our students walk in and they have scrubs that are branded both Huntington University and Purdue University College of Veterinary Medicine, there's a sense of pride there that practice owner, that veterinarian, that vet tech, when they see that, they're like, hey, I graduated from there. And so I think for many of them, they're excited because what we've learned, and when we launched the ag program, is not that all of our students are from Indiana. We have them from multiple states, but the students sometimes graduate from Huntington and stay here. We talk about the brain drain and, kind of what happens. What's been great for Northeast Indiana as the economic drivers, a lot of our graduates stick around. So the meaningful impact that these students may go into do their mentorship may be an opportunity for them to be hired someday and maybe fill a void that practice or that industry, that nonprofit may have where they're looking for someone like that with the bachelor's degree and the associate's degree together. Allow them to come in and really fill a void that maybe that particular organization. So it's been a challenge, but it's also been a really good relationship and opportunity for us to share our story, introduce our students. Our students get to introduce themselves, of course, and really kind of share their own story. And maybe there's a match for that someday that, we're looking at down, trying to predict 4 years down the road what that might look like.
This is absolutely fantastic, and I'm so impressed by how well you support your students. It's quite apparent that this isn't just a job or something that you are assigned. You truly care about these students, and you built an amazing program that supports them. And who wouldn't want to stay after all this support, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So, do you have time for a quick lightning round?
Sure. I didn't know this was coming.
We're going to do a quick lightning round. I'm going to ask the question, this first one, and I want you to shout out the first thing that comes to your mind. You can say it at the same time. That's the fun part. And then we can go back and listen and figure it out. All right?
Are there prizes involved? That's the question.
I can arrange for prizes.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
What is one word to describe your partnership?
Collaborative.
I should have said it at the same time. In collaborative, I will say mutual. Like there's a mutual agreement on our vision.
Absolutely. That's great. Okay, what's been the best part of the partnership so far?
I made friends.
I get to wear something that says Purdue on it.
And maybe the prize will involve something that says Purdue on it. Although Chad's winning here.
He is.
Okay.
I know I'm winning. It made it sound like I needed friends.
He's fast. He's fast. What surprised you most about working together?
The ease.
Yeah, yes, very different, very different. Huntington is a smaller school, Purdue is a larger school, and so yeah, the ease. That's a great answer.
Excellent. See, now, did he let you have that one, Nate? Or
I think he did.
are you getting faster?
He was, well, my button's not working.
Oh, shoot. What advice do you each have for others who want to develop community partnerships?
Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind, and don't be afraid to ask. I will tell you that President Emberton did not take no for an answer. when honestly, my first answer was no. I'll be quite honest with you.
You may have had two no's, Dr. Brown. You may have had two no's.
Knows, but persistence pays in this space. Sorry, go ahead, Nate.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I think openness to think different. Sometimes in a higher ed, I feel like we kind of box ourselves in because it's the way we've always done it. And I don't think higher ed survives in the future without some of these uniquely differentiated kind of programs where we can rely on each other. We can rely on expertise and rely on opportunities to help advance not only the career, but also this next generation of leaders.
I completely agree. This is great stuff. Thank you both so much for being on the show. If our listeners and viewers want to learn more about each of your programs, where can they go?
For us, it's just if you go to a search of Purdue Veterinary Nursing, that will take you to links to both our distance learning program and our campus program. So that's probably the easiest way. But it's Purdue.vet.edu.
And for Huntington, similar search. You can do the similar search on the huntington.edu website. But a lot of our programs, including this one, are all under the Ag department or the Hopper Institute for Ag Studies. So huntington.edu/ag will get you there. And of course, we just have the online program. So that's the only one. If you're looking for the on-campus one, go back to Purdue.edu for that one.
Awesome. And I'll put that in the show notes as well so people can just live link to them. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. This is a wrap. And I'll ask our listeners and viewers, if you like this episode, please do all the things, subscribe, rate, share it with your friends. And remember that together we can change the world. So use your powers for good.